So my suspicions have been confirmed, and exactly what I kind of thought would happen did happen. Maybe a little bit earlier than I thought it would happen. But the Philadelphia Eagles look bad, and they're not very good. Simple as that. And now they've lost 2 games in a row to opponents that they should have beaten on paper, but it just confirms what we've known for a long time, which is they're not a great football team. They got very lucky to win really all of their games so far this season. They got very lucky to beat the Chiefs. If Travis Kelce doesn't drop a ball on the goal line, that's a touchdown and not an interception that becomes a touchdown. Eagles lose that game. They got incredibly lucky to win against the Rams. The Rams were up 26-7, self-imploded on themselves, and the Eagles blocked a kick, reminiscent of the Broncos Chiefs game last year when the Chiefs stayed perfect after blocking a kick. There's been so many block kicks this year, it's actually insane. Even the Buccaneers game, that was a very close game. The first game of the season against the Cowboys, they didn't play great either, but hey, they won the game. Kudos to them. That one, I would say they deserve to win. They'd be my pick anyway. But their record's inflated, and they got lucky to win many of these games. Now, I understand if you're a fan, all you care about is the win. Screw you, we're 4-0. That's what they were probably saying to Drew Brees when they said they were overrated, or Jalen Hurts isn't among the NFL's top quarterbacks. Who can beat Jalen Hurts? He's that guy. Simply put, the Philadelphia Eagles are not that good of a team this year. It's okay. Football is so year to year. The hardest thing to do other than to win a Super Bowl is to repeat as champions. That's why we have so much respect for teams like the Patriots in the early 2000s and the Chiefs, what they just did a few years ago. To repeat as champions is very, very difficult. And they're having many issues that they didn't have last year. Their defense is bad. Last year's defense was among the best that we've seen in the NFL this century. Maybe one of the top 5 defenses we've seen this century. The defense this year, not good. Zach Bond, nowhere near as good. Reed Blankenship is out. Jalen Carter, Nolan Smith. I am nowhere near as intimidated as these guys. Even Cooper DeJean. Keely Ringo was getting bullied all night last night against the New York Giants. It was all over the place. Their defense is nowhere near as good. Their offensive line, I understand the guard's out. Mailata's in. Dickerson, is out. I think Lane Johnson's in. They're having injury issues there. Saquon is not running with the fierce tenacity, but a lot of that has to do with the offensive line, which is why Jalen Hurts is getting sacked more, which he was like, Jalen Hurts, he doesn't get sacked because his offensive line is so good. Well, they're not as good as anymore. Offensive line is also so year to year, and the injuries play a huge factor in that. And then there's the receivers. And then there's the cryptic messages that we're hearing from Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown that they may want to leave, that they are very unsatisfied with what's going on here. And it looks like it. It genuinely looks like it. I saw A.J. Brown quit on a route that would have been a touchdown a couple weeks ago, I think in the game against the Broncos, and that ended up being incomplete. I saw Jalen Hurts completely overthrow Devontae Smith. He was wide open last night against the Giants, and he completely overthrew him. Jalen Hurts, what are you doing? Okay? That's why I said, look, Jalen Hurts, good quarterback, great guy, seems like a great leader, great rushing quarterback, very, thick and stoutly built and everything like that. And I think he's probably the perfect quarterback for the Eagles system and the way that they play, which is to create a great roster, which is what Howie Roseman has done, with a bunch of big, high-name guys, a lot of them who went to the same schools or who were marketed as being some of the most talented players at their position, surround them with great coaching, like a Vic Fangio on defense, or Nick Sirianni, who's a clever play caller, and with the best running back that we've in the NFL, or one of the best running backs that we've seen in the NFL over the past decade or so, in Saquon Barkley. The best offensive line in the league, great receivers in Brown and Smith, and everything else, and Jalen Hurts, just don't mess it up. Don't put the ball in harm's way, deliver the ball accurately. And for the most part, he does that. That's why he's won so many games. And especially he was going on a streak of winning so many consistent games before the Broncos lost. And he did that correctly. But the problem with the NFL, I shouldn't say the problem, but the reality with the NFL is eventually they're going to force your quarterback to be the person who wins the game for them. You can have everybody else be as great as possible, but if that guy isn't playing to a certain level, you're not going to win. And that's just the reality of the NFL these days. I genuinely think Nick Foles in 2017 is the last quarterback that isn't at least an above average quarterback that we're going to see win the Super Bowl. I genuinely think that's the case. I'm not saying that you have to have a Patrick Mahomes or Tom Brady or one of those guys, although it certainly helps, but you need one of the upper echelon quarterbacks, like a top 10 like quarterback in the NFL in order to win many games. I just truly feel that way. And Jalen Hurts seems to be a guy who's great for the Eagles system. I don't know if anybody else could run the tush push the same way that Jalen Hurts does. And he's great for that, but is he as talented as Dak Prescott? No. I'm not even going to get to Patrick and Lamar and Josh and Joe Burrow when they're all healthy. I'm not even going to get to them because clearly they're not, but he's not as good as Dak Prescott. Is he as good as Kyler Murray? I would say yes, but that is a question. That is a serious question. And many other quarterbacks that we run to, he's not as good as Matthew Stafford. At his absolute best, I even think Brock Purdy's played better than him. Same with the Jared Goff. And Jalen Hurts is having struggles. He threw a really bad pick in the red zone against the Giants. And like I said, overthrew Devontae Smith. The defense can't stop anybody. Cam Skattebo is running wild, which I'm very disappointed about because I have Cam Skattebo in fantasy. And I benched him this week thinking, oh, Breece Hall and Josh Jacobs are going to run wild. Let me not start Cam Skattebo. The Eagles defense still has some hope. Yeah, 100 yards, 3 touchdowns. But Cam Skattebo ran wild. Jackson Dart is a player I'm very impressed with. I think the Giants made the right pick with Jackson Dart. I kind of wanted them to go to Shedeur because I thought, okay, Cam Ward's going to be first, then Shedeur. But Jackson Dart looks very good. Looks very good. And I'm impressed with what I've seen from Dart. I think the Giants are building a quality roster. Brian Burns is great. Obviously, Dexter Lawrence. You know, you got some of the offensive linemen back and healthy. You know, Slayton and Hyatt made a couple catches again. And Robinson as well in the receiving core. They got a decent team going around. And I think they're not going to challenge in the NFC East, of course, but could next year be a different story? Could they leapfrog ahead of the Cowboys and become the third best team in the division, not the very last team in the division? That's very possible, but hey, look, major respects to the Giants, but the Philadelphia Eagles don't look great. And I said that this team was very reminiscent of the 2023 Eagles. The difference with the 2023 Eagles is their collapse came towards the end of the year. They were 10-1, and then they collapsed 10-1 to 11-7 if you include the playoff game. This team seems to be collapsing right now. The offensive play calling was so non-creative from a Nick Sirianni offense towards the end of the game that I was baffled. The Giants were down 13-3, then they came back. Sorry, the Eagles are down 13-3. They came back to make it 17-13, and you think, okay, that's good. They got a little bit of momentum going. The moment that happened, the offensive play calling just went away, completely away, and the Giants were able to pounce and get some scores of their own. Obviously, the horrible pick happened. If it wasn't for that, then maybe it'd be a different story, but I think the Giants would have won anyway. So Nick Sirianni has some question marks. Vic Fangio has some question marks. The players have some question marks. And let's see if the Eagles can bounce back, because right now they don't look very good, and they haven't looked great for any of their games so far this year. At all. And maybe it's a good thing because we're seeing as much parity in the NFL as we've seen in a long time. Like the amount of 4-1 teams that I didn't expect, like the 49ers with all the injuries they have and the players leaving and Brock Purdy being out, for them to be 4-1 and the Colts to be 4-1 and the Jaguars to be 4-1. But yet the Chiefs are 2-3 and the Ravens are terrible and everyone's injured. And Lamar's ruled out for Sunday as well. It is cool to see as much parity as we've seen in the NFL, and it wouldn't surprise me if the Eagles aren't in the mix of real contenders. Now, if we're being real, they will likely, almost certainly make the playoffs. Could I see them being one and done or losing the divisional round badly? Absolutely. And that's probably what I'm predicting happen, because this team hasn't been very good. Every time I've watched them, I've been disappointed in the way they played. And let's see if it continues. I don't even know who they play next week, but hey, let's see if it continues, because that'll be interesting.